Well, welcome to this week's Monument Monday. And for this week, we are at Rathlee Signal Tower, and I'm joined by Carmel Gordon. And Carmel is going to talk to us about the history of this tower and also generally the location. And Carmel, a big part of the location of this tower is obviously where we are here along the coast.
Yes, and on a height, which is ideal for coast watching and signalling from one to the other. So this tower it was built in 1804, started and finished off in 1805. It's built on the site of an O'Dowd castle, we believe, and by 1816 they were obsolete. They weren't suitable. By 1806 they had to do structural repairs for dampness. They didn't barrack men, and they were really unsuitable for the job. And also technology had changed. So the wars with France and Spain and all that, the threats were gone. So they were originally built as a kind of a panic after General Humbert sailed in over there into Killala. And so they were built for just watching out to see any enemies or anyone that might be coming along the coast. And they were usually built on the sites of others. As I said, this was the O'Dowd's country, Chirira. So that's kind of it. They were quickly out of use again. Then they were replaced by Coast Guard stations, and one was built over there at the little natural harbour in Pollahini. So that ruins of that is over there still to be seen. So that was much more suitable. It was near the little harbour for launching boats and things like that. Originally it was meant to be put on the navigation point, which is Lena Dún. That's the navigation point to this day, but it was very inaccessible, so and also not on a great height. So they moved the building up here. So the track of the original first tower that was started is still in Lena Dún. It's where Sligo and Killala Bay join, so it's an ideal spot here for looking at over as far as Donegal and over as far as Mayo. So that's the signal tower.
And you were saying, Carmel, that there was 81 of those built?
Yes, this is number 65 of 81 that was built around the coast. It was kind of, as I said, a panic measure after General Humbert, and of course there was always a threat from the Spanish and the French to invade, and so that was why they were built. But they had a signal system of flags and masts and things. The mast would be like an old ram of a ship, you know what I mean, a topmast thing. About 15 metres high.
Yeah.
And from that then they'd have different flags to warn of different things. And there was also a smoke and ball signal.
So this would signal to the other towers further along the coast?
Yes, there was one over in Mayo, and then they were all down into Sligo and on into Donegal. So they reckon they could get a message from here, we'll say, to Athlone, the centre of Ireland, in 12 minutes.
That's impressive, yeah. So these are the days before...
This was cutting edge.
Yeah, mobile phones or anything like that.
Yeah, well, I think like we mightn't get a signal here today on a mobile phone, and they can.
That's true, yeah. The tower itself, that's a two-storey tower, and they're generally built to the same plan. So all the towers are the same design?
Yes, if you look at Carmel, it's the same. The stone, various different areas has different types of stone. This is limestone, as you can see. The entrance is at the back, which is on the first floor. That was for security, so they could go up a ladder, go into the building, and then they felt they were secure there. But they quickly became obsolete. They weren't suitable for barracking men, they weren't suitable structurally. They were poorly designed and poorly built. They were built in haste, and then the threat of wars after Waterloo and everything changed, the world changed, technology changed, so they became obsolete very quickly. Yeah. And they became like replaced by Coast Guard stations, which could barrack men, and there were little houses like for a family.
So there was 8 to 10 people in this tower.
Yes, they were made up of the reserve navy. They were called sea fencibles, and the local yeomanry, like the landlords and that, would also put men in here to guard and to look out and to cover the shifts on it.
Yeah. We'll take a look at the side here now. We'll see
Yeah.
there's no windows on this side here, but there are features very much like a castle up in the top. We have the bartizan features just on the corner. There was rounded stone features there, and then above that is the chimney. So there's a chimney
Yes.
and a fireplace on the ground floor and the upper floor, I believe.
Yes. And even there are records that this particular tower, the chimney was always a problem, and structurally, after a year after it was built, they had to get structural repairs done on it. So they were really not a suitable thing for the purpose, other than they could get signals to one another.
Yeah, and even the signalling system, if there was fog or cloud.
I think that's why they had the smoke and the balls and shiny things, as well as the flags. I think they overcame it that way.
Okay.
Um,
And just behind it, Carmel, we were talking about this other little building. Neither of these buildings, by the way, are accessible, so we're just viewing them from this area here. But you can see a small little building just behind it.
yes.
And that is a lookout post from World War II.
Yes.
And tell us a little bit about this one, Carmel.
Yeah. Well, again, World War II came. Ireland was neutral. These were, again, hastily erected around the coast, usually on the same sites as the signal towers or on a height. This one is number 66, again, of, I think, 86, again, erected all around the coast of Ireland. The idea of them was that they could look out at any enemy or anything that was passing and record it. So it was manned by the local defence force and some Irish Army personnel. So local men got to work here. There was a telephone connected, and there was, you can see a little chimney. It's just one little room with those windows facing out to the sea. It was manned 24/7, and the local men that brought the turf to them, they complained because, again, the chimney was an issue. It wouldn't pull right, so they could never stay inside for long. They were smothered with smoke. Some people say the British government paid for these. They're prefabricated little buildings. Whatever they were, they served a purpose at the time, because everyone was afraid. Like, there was stakes driven down around the coast and everything to stop the Germans from landing planes and things. It was a fearful time. When the Americans entered the war, Ireland opened up what's known as the Northwest Corridor for the people from Newfoundland and the Americans and the Allies coming into Northern Ireland. It was the nearest point. So that helped again. They then proceeded to get big stones in the fields and write era on them. So it was like navigation. They could look down and see where they were in Ireland or where they were. Yeah. And each lookout post would have a number on it. So this would be like era 66.
Yeah.
Now again, that era sign was not located here. There was one located down at Lenadoon Point and one located over at Pullaheeny Harbour. Some of them had two signs, but they both said the same thing, era 66.
Yeah.
So a plane crossing over, the pilot could look down. It wasn't good weather. I know what he done, it was just cloudy. And he could see where he was going. It helped him to get across into Northern Ireland, which was a big, huge military base at the time, and gave a lot of employment to people from Ireland, like as various different roles as nurses and different things.
And you see that continuity with the signal towers and the lookout posts, often located close to one another.
Yeah.
See that in various locations in Sligo as well. And then the era signs often lost, or the field has been reclaimed for grazing again.
Yeah.
And it's a great bit of our coastal heritage that we have. Yeah.
And it wouldn't be any harm sometimes to just at least have the location, the exact location.
Yes.
Which we're very lucky. We've just kind of found the one in Pullaheeny.
Yes, with your help, Carmel.
Yeah, so we've got that, and we know now for sure there's one in Lenadoon as well.
Yeah, so that's two now
so
to be added.
To be added to the list.
Record. Yeah.
And again, I'm not sure why they weren't recorded. Maybe it was a bit clandestine, or something that they didn't want to say that they were helping the Allies or whatever. So maybe it was because we were neutral that they didn't really record them. So the only record is what has survived.
Yeah.
Recently, we've just found out about the era signs that were in this area. As I said, the lookout post is number 66. So the era signs, one was located in Pollahiny, and it just said era 66 in big stones that were whitewashed. And then a similar sign was in Lenadoon, and again it was era 66. There's actually a living woman I've just seen in Ireland's Own. I'll have to go and visit her. So Brendan Devaney, her grandson, wrote a story about the Arendora Star that was torpedoed off Donegal. A lot of the bodies from that ship were washed in along the coastline for months afterwards. One man was washed up at Easky Pier. He was an Italian man. That's a story for another day. But this girl, she was 12 at the time, her father used to walk along the coast for gathering salvage, and one day he got lots of wood that came in, and it was written on it in green letters, she said, was Arendora Star.
Wow.
Now, they had no idea about the tragedy of the people who were torpedoed and drowned and so on and so forth. But he collected the timber. He got the children, her two brothers, Pa and Michael, and herself, to come down and drag the timber up to the house. He was quite a good carpenter, and he made a couple of tables out of it. And the family still have one of those tables to this day. So they were made from the wreckage. But she also, in telling that story, said they were terrified. First, when they heard the war started, they were delighted and thrilled and thinking it was great about a war. The children, they knew nothing about the consequences of it. She said that they were absolutely terrified at night. They used to black out their curtains with blankets and different things. The windows would blacked out in case the Germans would bomb them. Yeah. And she remembered them putting the stones down at Lenadoon Point and whitewashing them to make sure that the Germans knew that this was Ireland. Wow. We know that that is not quite true, but it helped, I suppose, to keep the Germans out. But it was more of a benefit to the Allies who were crossing over in what was known as the Northwest Corridor, in across Donegal and into Northern Ireland.
So she actually remembers when the era sign
was 12.
Wow.
She was 12 at the time. So we might get to go and visit Agatha one day, hopefully, and get the story of her.
That is amazing.
Yeah.